Hi, I'm Scott. Thanks for stopping by. I'm going to intro this video that you're about to see. It is a one-on-one Q&A with my coach, B, also known as Bertrand Newsom. He's from San Jose, California, and I imagine that some of you already know him. Possibly he is also your running coach. But if he's not and you're in the San Jose area, I definitely recommend reaching out to Coach B at Too Legit Fitness. And this is a fun little interview that we had an idea to do. So enjoy the video, and if you do like this and you want to see more videos, I'd be happy to have you subscribe to my channel where I talk about running and recovery and just being the best person you can be. So thanks for stopping by. Enjoy the video. This computer. Oh, hi everybody. Thanks for joining us today. I am with Coach Bertrand Newsom, who happens to be my running coach, and he has agreed to let me ask him 10 questions that he has not seen. So we're going to see how this goes, and we'll just get right into it here. So, Coach, first of all, can you just specify your name and what your business is?
Yes, Bertrand Newsom, otherwise known as Coach B. I am the head coach and founder of Too Legit Fitness, also the head coach of Race Mob, a running community that you know quite well. That's how we've become friends. We've had you on the podcast a couple of times. You're one of our liaisons and partners. You do product reviews for us. We're very proud of that. Also the co-director of the Coaches of Color initiative by way of the 80/20 Endurance Foundation. Let's see, also the co-director of Taji 100, a annual fitness challenge that benefits military charities that over the last decade plus, we've helped raise over $500,000 for military families. Very proud of that. So that's a little bit about Coach B. Let's get this conversation started, Mr. Stroll.
Okay, so I do have 10 questions and a bonus question if you're willing to go into the bonus round. So the first question is, when did you realize that you wanted to become a run coach and why?
Excellent question. Well, for our listeners, my history, mostly as a working professional, was managing hotels in the greater Bay Area. I spent nearly 3 decades managing hotels, most recently 2 hotels in San Francisco that I stepped away from just before the pandemic went and the world changed because of it. But I made that decision to go all in as an endurance coach 100% in early, like February, January of 2020. But I knew for a while that anything that related to social fitness, Scott, I was just the happiest. And I really enjoyed what I did as a hotel executive, working with people. And ironically, I'm still working with people. So I feel that's a passion of mine. But starting this running club back over a decade ago and having group runs, and a lot of my closest friends are teammates. It's just been incredibly fulfilling and enriching. And to answer your question as specific as possible, probably around 2018 when I got my first certification, that I knew that I had a higher calling, that this is what I wanted to do on some level. And it became from interest to more than a hobby to full-time profession. This is all I do, and I love it. It does not feel like work.
Yeah, I know that feeling from just talking to you. I'm glad you made that decision. You've made me a better runner
Oh, thank you.
and a better person in some respects. So I appreciate that you did that. So next question related to that is, how did you come up with such an awesome name of Too Legit Fitness?
Another excellent question. I love this. Let's see here. Going back to my early days of running, really my early days of running were less about individual accomplishments and always group first. So when I started running, I think my first official run timed event was being a part of a marathon relay team that I put together in the city of Oakland. And for those of you who are, early 90s R&B hip hop fans, MC Hammer is from Oakland, California.
Ah,
So as I had subsequent relay teams, we started to name those teams after after hit songs of his, and one of his hit songs was "Too Legit to Quit." And that moniker really resonated with the crew, so it just stuck. It was one of the first team names as part of that event, and that's the origin story of Too Legit. Originally was Too Legit to Quit. Then we morphed it to Too Legit Fitness a few years later.
Yeah. Awesome. That's great. Okay. I certainly remember MC Hammer, the big pants guy. So danced to his songs quite often
Mhm.
growing up. So that you almost answered the question, but I'm going to ask it officially. So do you recall when you fell in love with running?
Let's see here. My curiosity started to peak as I was attending a rock and roll half marathon. As somebody I was seeing at the time was an avid runner, so something kind of caught my curiosity. I'd always been an active individual. Always enjoyed sports, played baseball and softball, and um, enjoyed the gym from a strength training standpoint. But running was never really on my radar until seeing people finish the San Jose Rock and Roll Half Marathon. The diversity of the running community, the
Mhm.
wide spectrum of people from all different fitness levels, and from an age standpoint, from youth all the way up until senior, people just seemed like they were having fun. So shortly thereafter, I tried to run a mile and was humbled. But that first timed event that I participated in Oakland, California, as part of the relay team, I was one-fourth of that squad. As soon as I crossed the finish line, or actually, as soon as I had the bib pinned on, and then handed off the baton to the third place runner or third leg runner, and
Mhm.
then managed to make my way down to the finishing corral, and to see the energy and enthusiasm with everybody, behind the barricades rooting on the runners.
Mhm.
For me, I felt like, wow, this is like kind of the Olympic finish, going into the stadium and hearing the crowd roar. And I'm just a regular first time runner at the time. I had
Mhm.
not even officially crossed the finish line, but to see the andulation and the cheering and the motivation of runners and the spectators, I was hooked. And that year, I probably ran 25 timed events. And just over a year from that day, I ran my first marathon. So I went all in and haven't regretted it
Love it.
since. Yeah,
That's great. That's great. It's easy to get the bug. I recently got the bug, and I say recently because I've only been running for about 5, 6 years, and I know once you get that feeling of hey, I can do this, and how you feel, it's addictive in a good
it
way.
is, man. It is. I
Yeah,
mean, you finished a marathon, your second marathon in May of this year. You
yeah,
traveled out of state. It was very personal and emotional for you as you had your wife and son physically there to watch you through that 26.2-mile journey.
yeah,
I had the great fortune of seeing your training and how hard you worked, and to see all that hard work pay off. You know,
yeah,
it's these moments, especially as we've had some life experience. You and I are not 18, 19, 20, 21.
yeah.
We've been on this earth for a while. So
Oh yeah,
to still have some personal milestones, and being able to get up and get out and appreciate each day and not take it for granted, maybe as younger versions of ourselves did,
mhm.
it just gives us just a greater sense of appreciation.
Yeah. Certainly, you're right. Absolutely. All right, let's go on to the next question. So you mentioned Oakland, California a few times, so that reminds me of this question. Where did you grow up?
Another excellent question, Scott. Let's see. I'm a military brat. My father served in the Army for 23 years and had a second career in law enforcement in Las Vegas. With that said, I was born overseas. I was born in Germany.
Hmm.
And then
Wow.
eventually we moved back to the States when I was just over 3, and eventually settled on the Monterey Peninsula by way of the Army base, Fort Ord, California. So
I
I
know where
call
that is.
Seaside, California, which is a suburb of a smaller city out on the Monterey Peninsula. That's
Mhm.
home. Seaside.
All right. Yeah, I've been down to Fort Ord. I play when before I was a runner, I was a golfer, and I played golf down there sometime. I don't
Okay.
I don't
Yeah,
remember the
beautiful
name of the
courses
course,
down
but
there.
yeah, it was very nice.
Maybe black bayonet.
That was it.
This one. Yeah,
Yep,
yeah.
bayonet.
Mhm, mhm.
Okay. And where did you officially go to school growing up?
Oh,
Well, getting up, we started at the end, now we're going back to the beginning. So
yeah, yeah.
now I know.
Junior college guy, a lot of on the job training. So spent some time in Monterey Peninsula College and Skyline College on the peninsula here in the Bay Area and by way of San Bruno. Started working in the hotel business while in high school, worked my way up through the ranks. Front office clerk, spent some time in the restaurant, administrative assistant to the general manager here that was then in Monterey, and then had really my big first promotion, leaving the Monterey Peninsula and came to Burlingame, just outside where SF International Marathon is.
Hmm.
I was a very young assistant general manager overseeing a 200-room hotel, full service restaurant, shuttle operation. And I really learned a lot in that experience.
Hmm.
Ended up, as the assistant general manager and kind of progressed into my first GM role in 1999 and held that executive leadership role for, up until my retirement in 2020. So worked for Hilton, worked for Marriott, but I really found my niche working for independent boutique hotels. I managed multiple units, as many as 3 hotels at one time. And I enjoyed all those unique experiences, helping people become comfortable while traveling domestically and internationally.
Yeah. Interesting, very interesting. As when I, in a prior role in my life, I spent a lot of time in hotels as a traveling consultant, and I often went out to SFO. And my favorite hotel around there was that really big Hyatt that's right by the
Oh, sure.
airport.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
just enjoyed
I know it well.
when I got a room in that Hyatt. I was very happy.
Yeah. Good sports bar in there.
Yes.
That's a whole nother conversation. So
Okay.
yeah.
All right. So we did that. Let's talk a little bit more about running. So you run, I run. What time of day is your favorite time to run? Are you an AM or a PM runner?
When I was working in the city, it was probably a little bit easier for me to run post work. I was part of the Nike Run Club group in San Francisco, met some wonderful people. I really enjoyed that.
Mhm.
But at my heart, I'm a morning runner. I like to get it done early. And now, especially over the last, let's see, maybe 5, 6 years, the team is typically getting together in the 5 a.m. hour somewhere
Mhm.
and being able to get some
Uh,
runs in that way. So I'm a morning runner.
Yep, I've seen those Hammer Time announcements and thinking, wow, that's just great that you guys are already at running at 5:30.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll get up at 5:30 and run by
Yeah.
6:15, but I'm never
Here's the
out running at 5:30.
here's the great thing by biting the bullet and running early. You get it done. We don't have to wrestle with ourselves after we get home from work and saying, man, the workday really kicked my tail. Do I have the energy? Because if
Hmm.
you're typically saying I'm going to work out post work, you have more wiggle room to kind of push the workout off to the next day and the
Hmm.
next day.
100%.
Also, if you get the workout done in the morning, there's a sense of like, you know what? This is the hardest thing I'm going to do all day. And anything that comes at me, I feel like I kind of have a leg up.
Hmm.
And if you're one of those overachievers, if you've gotten it in early in the morning before work, you can have some double days. Maybe at lunch you can go for a walk, or after work, if you have a little bit of extra pep in your step,
Hmm.
post dinner or pre dinner, you can get a nice little shakeout. So there are a lot of benefits just to kind of getting it in early, and it gives you a little bit more options, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Yep. Yeah. Yesterday I ran after work. Today I ran about 8:30 this morning. I felt really good, and I'm still thinking of going for a little bit of swim before dinner.
Okay,
But
sure.
absolutely, I turned into a morning runner just because for that main reason. You want to just get it, not just to get it done, but I'm excited to get up and just get started. And like you said, at the end of the day, if you had a stressful day, you might just say, I was going to run tomorrow anyway. I'll just not run today, and you'll miss a workout.
Right.
So mornings is much easier to fit in. Okay. Speaking of running again, when or what do you do right after a run? What does your recovery immediately after a run look like?
Very good question. I like to get some food in my system. I like to rehydrate as best as possible, but just get some food in your system. Depending on the The distance, if you're running a casual 5K, 10K, but when you're looking at double digits, you're just putting a different level of stress load on the body. So getting some, hydration, some level of protein, s- quality carbs, and sometimes, those carbs can come in, carbs and protein can come in the form of a beer and a good burger, and,
Hmm.
and side of fries. You feel you've earned that, so to speak.
Hmm.
But if I'm typically working out, if I'm getting back home post workout, if I can get 16 plus ounces of water or some form of electrolyte, and then have my AM protein smoothie or fruit veggie smoothie, I feel like I'm pretty good. That I can serve as a meal replacement. It gives me a sense of fullness, and it will start to reduce some of those cravings that I have for savory and sweet. I have a sweet tooth, but if have good recovery habits by getting in a protein shake or a fruit slash veggie smoothie, I feel like I'm a little bit better prepared, and it helps me manage my weight.
Okay, great. The next question is so related. It's like perfect. We wrote a script. What is your favorite food to eat when you can eat anything you want? What's your cheat day food?
Mm,
Well, you don't care if there
wow.
are 4 digits in the calories.
Yes, let's see here. Barbecue would have to be thrown out not thrown out would be
Thrown
one
in.
major consideration. Mexican food, I love it, Italian, but those three, if one were to kind of nudge the other out, mm, I just love Mexican food. I love Mexican foods, especially here in California, in the
Yeah,
Bay Area, San Jose. But a quality barbecue, like I was very spoiled with my recent travels in South Carolina. I was very spoiled when I was in Austin, Texas earlier this year.
yeah,
We'll see what the food is like in Boulder, Colorado when I travel next week. I love culinary. I love to eat and experience regions by their culinary offerings.
right. Okay. Let's talk about some races for a couple of questions here. What is your favorite race distance
Mm,
and why?
all right. You you should not be surprised by this. I'm going to say the marathon. Probably the toughest distance. Um, but I find it challenging. I find that in order to there's no real perfect marathon. A lot of things have to come together. There are a lot of variables.
Hmm.
There's always going to be some level of adversity. There's strategy involved. There's absolute preparation that needs to take place in order to navigate from start to finish. And I think that particular distance, Scott, you can discover yourself. You know, you can have some come to Jesus moments.
Hmm.
Um, and when you cross that finish line, it just gives you another layer of confidence. It can absolutely humble you. We have been humbled by this. You and I have been humbled by this distance before.
Oh, yeah.
Um, and I like the adversity that it presents because, again, we encounter that in everyday life. And being able to think on your feet, being able to take a deep breath and realize, you know what, let me just put one foot in front of the other and I'll eventually get to the next destination. I think a lot of those things translate into everyday life. So I like the struggle that comes with it. I
Yeah.
like those moments of self reflection, of gut check. And there's so much that is happening on that course, people running behind you, people running ahead of you, to your left, to your right, that you identify with everybody in that race, especially at mile 18, 19, 20, 21, when
Mm.
you are just trying to keep it all together. And when you start to question yourself, that if you have presence of mind, you can help somebody out in those tough moments. And one race doesn't define you, but you can make lifelong friendships or impact somebody, um, where they can refer back to that point in time, maybe the toughest point in the race where Scott Struhl said, "Good job. You got this." Maybe a high five, maybe a fist pump. Maybe
Mhm.
they didn't prepare as well as Scott, and where Scott had an extra gel or two, and you gave them a gel that made the difference, or you reminded them of something to maybe fuel up at the next aid station. Those moments stick with runners. And
Yeah.
that's why I love the running community. It's
Yeah.
very powerful and profound. So the marathon distance, for those reasons that I mentioned, really resonates with me in my favorite distance.
Yeah. I agree with all of those aspects. The marathon is a humbling distance, but running a marathon is almost like a really long movie, suspenseful movie, where there are lots of plots and twists from the gun time to the finish line, and you just don't know the characters that you're going to meet and the
Oh,
situations that
well
happen.
said. I love that analogy.
It's
I'm gonna have to take a little bit of that and share that in the future. That is
yeah,
perfect. Yes.
it is exciting. Yeah, I mean, you just think about and the fact that it takes so long that you can get to experience it for hopefully not more than 4-ish hours. But the people who run it in 2 hours, they don't get to experience with us humble everyday runners get to
Yes.
experience.
I'll share an experience real quick. The Austin Marathon that I ran in February of this year. Um, it was a tough race. It was, I
Mm-hmm.
think I was probably a little overcooked. Meaning I could have ran a little less. I could have tapered better. I think I may have
Mm-hmm.
taken the race for granted. I was there on business as part of a running retreat. Um, I don't think I went out too fast, but I just think that I probably had too many miles in my legs. It was happened to be the month of February, Taji 100, the ultra challenge where everyone's trying to get in 100 miles. And I think it came back to get me from a performance standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
But I had, had a little bit of adversity in that race, and I had a choice either to let the course win or could I still find some silver linings? And I chose to, I'm going to make this the best race under the circumstances. I'm going to, engage with as many athletes as I can on the course from a coaching perspective, and all those people who were the back of the packers, those people that are running north of 5.5, 6+ hours, that race got warm. So after I managed to finish and walking back to where my accommodations, there were still people out there that probably had 6, 7, 8 miles left. And seeing them walking or forms of walking, um, I just really resonated with those individuals that
Mm-hmm.
my day wasn't that tough. And to still be able to show some love to them, root them on, because there probably weren't as many spectators out there lining the streets as there were when I finished. So again, that's why I enjoy this particular sport, because you never know what someone's journey is in their story, why they chose that particular distance. It can be in the memory of someone who's passed. They may have raised X amount of thousands of dollars for a cause, or it could
Mm-hmm.
be a bucket list item where a year ago they did not think it was possible, and they're on the cusp of completing their very first marathon.
Yeah.
Those are the stories that impress me, that motivate me more than and even the elites. Some elites, I'll be with some elites, some former marathoners, people who participated in the world championships while I'm in Boulder. Ultimate respect. But it's that person who ran 5 hours and 56 minutes,
Mm-hmm.
who cramped up at mile 13 and was able to persevere. Those are the heroes in my book.
Yeah. Well said. Yep. Very, very. I respect everybody who crosses that line, no matter
Yeah.
how they get there. It
Yeah.
is amazing. It's just, yeah, it's such an experience. I agree with you. Marathon's my favorite distance as well. Okay, we just got a couple more before we cut loose. Um, when you're running, do you listen to music, podcast, or nothing when you're doing your general workouts?
I It's the exception that I listen to music. I cannot remember the last race where I don't own any running earbuds, pods,
Hmm.
beats, this, that. I don't own any of those. So
Okay.
um I like to run and take in the surroundings. Sometimes I'm running with somebody else,
Hmm.
or I'm running in the midst of a trail, so soaking Mother Nature.
Hmm.
Um, and I cannot recall the last time on a race, even the marathon distance, when it's like us, it's a good time. It's kind of tune out and put on your power songs. It's been years.
Hmm.
And I don't frown upon it, but I may elect to occasionally, on a long run. You know, I co-host a podcast. I love podcasts, and
Hmm.
I could probably learn and work out simultaneously by listening to a podcast or in some training runs. But I just don't see myself on any future marathons or half marathons that I'm really pushing. I'd like to just to be present
Hmm.
in
Yeah.
each mile. So
Yeah.
that's just me.
Yep. No, it's me too. Races, I don't bring the earbuds. I want to experience 100%. So listening is part of the experience.
Hmm.
But for workouts, shorter workouts, if I know I'm doing 45 minutes, I'll do a
Oh,
podcast.
sure. Yeah, good.
And if I'm doing a long run on the roads, I will listen to music. The trails, no earbuds because you just got to
Okay.
hear what's going on.
Right.
Where I run trails, people also ride bikes, and I have to hear and listen for. Look out on your left
Right.
because
Or
that's
ring,
I
ring. Yeah.
or just
Yeah.
ring ring,
Hmm.
right? So yes, on the trails, no earbuds. You got to hear
I
what's
think
coming up.
I, I'm going to, I'll say it here. I'm going to acquire some running earbuds and look to multitask and feed the brain with podcasts and the like, maybe a quality ebook on some of my training runs.
Yeah.
I'm gonna, yeah, that does, I'm interested in doing that when I'm
Okay.
not running with somebody.
Yeah, when you're not running. Yep. And the good news is you'll have hundreds and hundreds of options to choose from if you just search for running podcasts. There are probably 25 of them. I listened to one of our friends just yesterday, Sarah. She does one, and I already forgot the name, but she did one about running myths, top three running
Ah,
myths.
okay. Oh, good.
And of
Hmm.
course, the first one was you don't have to run fast to train to race fast,
Right.
and that was number one, and that's I think
Mhm.
you're number one as well. So
Yeah.
so that was an interesting podcast that I listened to just yesterday. Okay. Well, I only have one more question. Do you want to hear the bonus question? And before we go, okay,
Of course,
okay.
yes.
So this one has nothing to do with running. This has something
Hmm.
to do with just your past and how much you can remember. Can you recall what is the most number of bandages you've had on your body at one time?
Wow. Bandages. Well, I have a couple of stitches in my head. And those was I looked like a mummy wrapped
Mm.
around my head. Gashed my head. It's part of the 2016 Chicago Marathon, non-running related, just coming
Oh,
around the
good.
subway.
Great, because I'm going there
Um,
thinking, oh my gosh.
yeah, let's see here. Playing softball, had a ball hit me right in the face and sliced my eye open here. Boy, I don't know if they were like band-aids, but bandages. I've had my head wrapped once, and actually before a Tough Mudder,
Okay.
yeah, split my head open as well. So,
Okay.
yep,
All right. Just the stupidest question I could
it's
think of
all good.
asking
Love
you.
it.
I had to
Love the
think of one stupid one.
creativity.
So we've taken the half hour, and I'm out of questions. I'm sure I could come up with 10 more, but we can do a part two. You are really fun to talk to, and especially great to listen to. I'm really glad I had an opportunity to ask you some questions that I generally wouldn't ask you on our one-on-one coaching calls because I'm more asking you for myself. And
Right.
these kinds of questions. I think people will get to know you a little bit better, how personable you are. The last thing I'm going to say is Coach B is my very first run coach, and I am very happy that he chose me as his most gifted athlete. And he told me that himself on the last one, and I very much appreciate you, Coach. Thank you so much.
All heart. Scott Struhl is all heart. As good as they get. Jersey's finest.
I appreciate our time. I know you got to go help some other folks, so you're going to get on a coaching call and have an awesome time at the Endeavor Retreat next week. And the next time we talk, or maybe before we talk, I will have a half marathon PR, hopefully under my belt. I'm racing in a week
Wonderful.
up
Yeah.
in Connecticut.
Next Saturday,
So
right?
next Saturday. Yep.
Yeah. Get it,
So
brother.
we'll go get it. All right. Thank you. I'm going to
Take
stop the
care,
recording.
everybody. Happy running.
Bye.